Hello, this is Jammy951 and today I'm bringing a tutorial on Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. This will contain spoilers from Prologue and Act 1, so be warned. So if we first take a look at the open world, this is quite a new concept to the game series. It wasn't there in the previous titles, as they were mission after mission and you didn't have room to explore or anything like that, you just had to go for it. But on this one, that's completely different. And you've also got the introduction of side objectives. These side objectives, if you don't want to do your missions, you can go off to any part of the map and you probably can find them there. And it's basically clearing out little areas where there's enemy insurgents, and basically you can have fun without actually having to progress within the story. And also with this open world, you can have different approaches to how you do missions. So if you want to go all guns blazing, you can find the best route to attack it from. Or if you want to be a proper sniper and you find a rocky face or somewhere that can overlook everywhere so you can take your time and take your shots, you're able to do that also. Also with the open world, getting around the map is fairly easy because you've got the option of fast travelling. To be able to unlock fast travelling, you do actually have to explore the map in the first place, which you'll unlock quite a bit of the map while driving around to and from missions anyway. So in the long run that won't be too bad, but if you start out you will have to drive pretty much everywhere straight off the bat. The only problem with the open world is the amount of vehicles that you have. So far your main mode of transport is only your buggy. It can get a bit boring. Luckily the controls aren't too bad. They're slightly better than Wildlands when that was released. Next of all, we have the crafting system. Crafting system is another new feature added into the game. This is where you can craft your own ammo, your own medical supplies, even grenades and stuff like that. To be able to do this, you'll need to search around the map, whether it's via missions or your secondary objectives. Normally there's crates dotted around the map, which gives you each of your different parts. These parts are then used when you go back to your area of operation. There's a workbench there which you can access and you can build stuff like your bullets, your different sizes, arrowheads for your crossbow, your pistol ammo, whether you want to build morphines or smoke grenades, normal grenades. It's all available there just as long as you have the parts to do it. This will also add some challenge if there's people that want to go about the game where they only use ammo that they've crafted, to give a slightly more challenging approach on this game. What has improved from the previous titles is the enemies side of it, because in previous titles the detection of the AI, you could pretty much walk up to them and they wouldn't bat an eyelid, but on this one it's based on sound. So on your mini-map you've got a little circle which shows you how loud you're being. So if you're running, that circle is rather large, but if you're crouched and sneaking up on someone, it's rather small. But if an enemy passes through that red circle, they will easily detect you. So being silent is more key to being undetected now. But saying that, they're still not 100% because you can probably kill about 20 of them and still have enemies in the area. They'll be on high alert, but after a certain period of time, they'll just carry on like nothing has happened, which isn't really true to life. So the storyline is pretty much like quite a lot of other first-person shooter ones. You've got to infiltrate and destroy some biochemical weapons, but this one is slightly different because your brother gets kidnapped at the end of the prologue. The story then continues with full of twists and turns, and your whole motivation between what you do from then on is to find your brother. While finding out more about your brother and where he could be located, you also uncover more about the group that actually took him, which you see at the end of the prologue in the cutscene. The only problem with the whole storyline is the missions. They can feel quite repetitive because you are doing virtually the same thing. Go in, kill the high leaders, clear out the areas. There's not much variation. The only variation that you can do is the way you approach the mission yourself. So whether you want to do it all guns blazing like I said previously, or whether you want to do it stealthily, it's up to you. So if we take a look at some of the new features that were implemented into the game. First we have the drone. This is very handy for spotting enemies and finding out the layout of the map before you actually move in. so you can plan your strategies accordingly, whether you again want to move in and try and find the safest route in amongst all the guards, or whether you want to just spot them so you can take them out at range. The only problem with this is if you get too close to an enemy, they can spot it and they've got like pinpoint accuracy to be able to take out these drones, so they can shoot it and hit it in one hit. Next we have the tracking system. You find in the prologue that you can do this because you're the tracker of the family, and what it does is you increase your sensors and you can see the footprints on the floor. As you follow those footprints actually on the screen, it also highlights it on the mini-map as little white dotted lines, the exact path that the enemy had taken to get to their point. This can be very handy to use in takedowns or interrogations, whichever you fancy. This heightened sense can also detect explosive things like your explosive barrels and just different things in the environment which you can use to your advantage. Next, even though it's such a small little thing, but it's the distance gauge which has been put on the scope of your sniper. This is a nice little feature, as once you get your distance to your target, you can adjust your scope accordingly to the distance rather than having to aim like what looks like a mile above the actual enemy to be able to even hit them. You can just adjust the scope and then it's only a few meters above to account for the bullet drop. Lastly is the CCTV, and this is by far the most pointless feature that was added. So you can hack CCTV consoles so you can spot your enemies within a building, but although it's quite interesting that you can hack it, once you hack it, you don't have to do anything. It pretty much spots everything for you and you don't have to do any work whatsoever. Some people might like that, but I would actually like to work slightly for my spots, but that's each to their own. So basically you open up the console and you can immediately close it because it spotted all the enemies in the range off the camera that you're using, and then you're done. One of the more annoying things about Sniper Ghost Warrior is the loading times, whether it's loading up the mission or loading up the game at the start or after any cutscene. The time it takes for it to load is between about 1 and 2 minutes, so not your normal standing loading times. Maybe 5-10 years ago these are more common, but nowadays loading times have been cut down for at most half a minute. So the fact a AAA rated game could not cut down their loading times to, say, 30 seconds is beyond annoying. In comparison to some indie games or smaller developers which haven't had too much experience but done a game of a similar size, their loading times are really small in comparison. So really, there was no excuse for it. The bullet cam is another area in the game which is nice. It's not as nice as the other sniping franchise, Sniper Elite, with all the X-ray cam and seeing how much damage you can do when you hit them, but it's good in its own right. So when it shows you the bullet from the side, it's really high detailed, very well done. And then as the bullet continues, it rotates so that you can see where the bullet's going to impact. But this is where all the problems start. So you see where it's going to hit, so say the bullet's heading towards the front of the head as being shown, so you can clearly see where the impact point is going to be. But when it shows you from a different angle, as this one shows the person from the side, the bullet is no longer travelling towards the front of the head, instead it's travelling at the side. So how can a bullet teleport from one point to another? This isn't a one-off occasion, it happens quite regularly throughout the game. The bullet never hits where it is. So I didn't have this problem on the previous Sniper Ghost Warrior, but this one I seem to have it quite a lot. So whereas they've improved in some aspects, this one is where they've actually gone downhill on and neglected to actually perfect. The dialogue in the game on a whole is alright, but at some parts it's quite cringy and, well, it's unbelievable. Sounds like the actors themselves got bored halfway through it and just kind of gave up, and it just makes the characters unbelievable. Mix this with the aesthetics of the characters, so in the cutscenes, the characters seem made of plastic with all the shiny skin and all that. It just makes for unrealistic. It looks more like your old action men than an actual person. But on a whole, if you can get past this, it's actually quite a small little part. It's more the other negatives which are more annoying about the game. So the graphics in the game as a whole are a great improvement on Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. The visuals are amazing, especially at a distance. Up close they're a bit tedious with your square edge rocks and stuff like that, so not up to the same standards as say Battlefield or COD or any of the other releases even from last year, but they are a great improvement from Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. But overall this game has good potential to be even better with future updates if they fix their problems, any bugs which I know people have been having, and the introduction of multiplayer, because that was missing on release. Unlike in Sniper Ghost Warrior 2, the multiplayer was quite fun in that one. So in all, as soon as they release the multiplayer, that'll be a big improvement to the game. So with that, I would actually rate this game at the current state only a 6 out of 10 with room for improvement if they fix the bugs, introduce the multiplayer and improve on some of the niggly little things like the bullet cam. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you did find it helpful, and thanks for watching.